Okay, I think I'm going to start. Hope everyone's good. We are doing Hallel. If you remember from last week, we started the chapters which begin the Hallel. Explained right, like just for quick review sake. This we call it Hallel. It's what when we daven Hallel, this is what we say, but it's not actually the Hallel Haggadah or the big Hallel, but it is what we call the Hallel HaMitzri, the Egyptian Hallel. We said that these few chapters of Tehillim, which is the Hallel, contain all the foundations of Yiddishkeit for us. And so last week we just did the very first chapter, which began with Hallelujah, which began with Hallelujah, Avdei Hashem, speaking about how Hashem makes us, he pulls us up and makes us great. Today we're going on to chapter Kuf Yud Daled, which is 114, and it's quite a well-known one because it's got lots of nice tunes that go with it, and it is B'tzeis Yisrael Mitzrayim, when the children of Israel, when the Yidden left, when they left Egypt. So this little paragraph, it's a short kapitel of Tehillim, and this kapitel of Tehillim contains the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim, leaving Egypt, but more importantly, or bigger and taking up more of the psukim in this chapter, is the story of Kriyas Yamsuf, the crossing of the sea, and the miracle that entailed. So just to have a look at the Tehillim inside the text, it says, "B'tzeis Yisrael Mitzrayim," when the Jews left Egypt, Beis Yaakov Ma'amloes, the house of Jacob was a foreign nation speaking a foreign language, and I'm going to read the next pasuk as well. Haisa Yehuda Lakadshay, Yehuda became holy, Yisrael Mamshalosav, and the Jews came under Hashem's leadership. That's the literal translation of these two psukim, and we want to have a look at them and understand them a little bit further. So the first pasuk, as we said, it says, "B'tzeis Yisrael Mitzrayim," when the Jews merited to leave Israel. What happened when the Jews left? When they merited to leave Egypt. So what happened when the Jews left Egypt? The Medrash tells us that there were three things that made the Jews merit leaving Egypt. In other words, the Jews were not this great nation, as we know, and Hashem took them out of Egypt anyway. And the Medrash tells us that there were three reasons. It says, "Shaloshana Shemam," they didn't change their names, they kept their Jewish names. Es Lashonam, they kept their Jewish language. And Shahayu Gedurim Ba'arayos, and they were careful to be moral. They were careful with immorality, and actually all these three things are hinted at in these two psukim. The first thing it says, "B'tzeis Yisrael Mitzrayim," when they went out of Egypt, and it uses the name of Jews, Yisrael, which is the name that Hashem gave to Yaakov. So specifically, the David HaMelech is pointing out to us that how did they go out of Egypt? One of the main reasons that they went out of Egypt was because they were Yisrael. They kept their Jewish names, and our Jewish names are like so important because our Jewish names are actually our connection with blessing, and that's why when we daven for someone, we daven with their Jewish name. We're also told that if somebody faints, God forbid, and they're unconscious, that one of the ways to awaken them would be to call out their Jewish name, to call out Yisrael, or the person's Jewish name, and that would awaken a person from a faint, bring them back to consciousness. So our names are actually who we are. Just as when we say the word table, we know what we're talking about because we gave it a name. We said table. So exactly the same thing with our personal names, that a name tells about about the person. And I've actually always felt it so fascinating with our children, that when we give our children a name, how do we choose the name that we give to our children? And afterwards, when we look at them, we say, that is who they are. Okay, that name is who they are. One of the times that came out so clearly to me was with my sons, Shmuli and Meir Chaim. So Shmuli was born right after Purim, and my husband and I had discussed beforehand. He said to me, "No, Rivki, this time you choose a name for the baby." And I couldn't think of a name, but the one thing, even though it was the day after Purim, I knew that he wasn't a Mordechai, and still till today I stand by that. Shmuli is not a Mordechai, that's all. And I chose the name Shmuli after a lot of thinking about it, and he's a real shmuli, okay? And the more shmulis you meet, you see that there's a certain trait, right? Certain traits that are in different names. And the same thing with the Meir Chaim. In fact, after we called Shmuli, we wondered why we hadn't called him Meir Chaim. And now when I look at the two boys, you can see that Shmuli is a Shmuli and Meir Chaim is a Meir Chaim. And I think we all could tell a story like that when you know the person. We understand that our name is who we are. Our name is us. And this was the greatness of the Yidden when they left Egypt, that although they'd become so entrenched in Egyptian life, there were a few things that they kept themselves, that kept them as a separate nation, and one of them was that they kept their names. Then it says that they kept their language, and we see this also in the pasuk. It says, Beis Yaakov, the Jewish people, Ma'am Lo'ez, were a nation who spoke a foreign language. So quite an amazing thing that they lived in Egypt for 210 years and didn't start speaking the language. Okay, that's like, how did that happen? It's almost been proven that when you live in a place, by the time you're there for 2 years, that you should be pretty proficient in knowing the language, understanding what's going on around you. So what does it mean when it says that the Jews were in Egypt for all these 210 years and didn't speak the language? Ma'am Lo'ez, they were a nation of a foreign language. So simply the Radak says, yeah, there were some of them who still didn't know the language. After 210 years, they kept themselves so sheltered and so not involved with, sorry, that's in the background. They had kept themselves so sheltered from Egypt and the way of life in Egypt that they didn't even learn the language. Interesting concept, interesting understanding of it. Some commentaries say this was the tribe of Levi who didn't work as slaves, and so they really had nothing to do with the Egyptians, and they didn't speak the language. They didn't know Egyptian. Another explanation is that this is talking about the women, hinted at by the fact that it says Beis Yaakov Ma'am Lo'ez. Beis Yaakov, whenever it mentions in the Torah the words Beis Yaakov as referring to the Jews, this is really talking about the woman, the woman. And so Beis Yaakov, the woman, Ma'am Lo'ez, kept their language. They remained speaking their own language. And again, over here, the commentaries speak about how important it is that a mother, woman, has the ability to communicate with her family in her own language, her language from her heart, so either it means the actual words of the language or the ability to communicate, which is what they kept. But one of the things that we told that women or mothers or teachers or whoever, even friends, should be doing is finding a language that talks to other people, that really explains and allows them to communicate. Again, a personal story. When we first got married, we had our first daughter, Batsheva. We decided that we were going to speak to her in Yiddish. My husband is very fluent with Yiddish. I know Yiddish from books, okay, from studying. So we thought we would be able to speak to her in Yiddish and give her the gift of learning Yiddish. Until one day when she was about 6 weeks old, my husband started laughing. He heard me speaking to Batsheva in third person, which is how I had learned to speak Yiddish, like the respectful way of speaking to people in third person. And at that point, we decided that we were not speaking to her in Yiddish anymore. We were speaking to her in a language that comes from our hearts, so that we could say what we wanted, and she could understand not just the words we were saying, but that the words were actually showing how we were feeling. So this is what it says about the people in Egypt, the Yidden in Egypt, Beis Yaakov Ma'am Loez. They were foreign. They were a nation who spoke this foreign language. In other words, they spoke a language which was not the Egyptian way of speaking. Some of the commentaries explain this also means that they were careful with the way that they spoke, not using profanities, not speaking in the slang language of Egypt. When people speak nicely, it shows that they are more classy and that they are educated. So this also gives the idea and the importance of language. And then simply some of the commentaries explain that, yes, they did speak Egyptian. You can't live in a place for 210 years and not be able to say one word of the language of that place. But it says this was not their preferred language. It wasn't their Mama Lashon. It wasn't what they spoke at home around the table or whatever. It was only used when they needed to be speaking that language. And one of the proofs we have for this is, you all know that when Hashem asked Moshe to go and speak to Paro and beg for the Jews to leave Egypt, and Moshe said, I can't speak, I'm a person who can't speak. And we always blame that on the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu had a lisp, and that's why he was saying he couldn't go. And actually the commentaries tell us it was more than just a lisp that he was explaining, but he was saying, no, I'm not good at Egyptians. Find someone who speaks the language Egyptian better than I do. So that is that they did not change their language. And then Haitsu Yehuda Lakoche, that the nation were holy. They were a holy people. They kept their morals, and they kept their value system. It was at the time of Kriyas Yamsuf, of crossing the sea, that the tribe of Yehuda became the tribe that would be leading the Jewish people. It was this gift was sealed for them when their Nasi Nachshon ben Aminadab went into the sea bravely before it split. And it was at that time that we say, Haisa Yehuda Lakocha, the tribe of Yehuda, became sanctified, eligible to be the tribe that would lead the Yidden, that would have kings come from it, and eventually Mashiach come. So what does it mean that this tribe remained holy, that the Jews remained holy despite everything? So the Medrash tells a story of two people who were having an argument. There were pigeons flying around, and both people said that the pigeons belonged to them. These are my pigeons, no, these are my pigeons. And finally, someone explained to them, they said, these are homing pigeons. So all you have to do is let them go home, and you'll see whose pigeons they are. They'll go home to the right place. And that's how they were able to tell who the pigeons belonged to. And the Medrash explains that when Hashem took the Jews out of Egypt, they were not a great, amazing nation. It says, these people served foreign gods, and these people served foreign gods. They were really at the bottom. They were the dregs at that time. And the accusing angel said, why are you taking them out of Egypt? Why do you need them? Why are you taking the Jews out? And Hashem said, when they come away from Egypt, in other words, when you let them go home, then we'll see they're homing pigeons, and you'll see that they'll come back to me, they'll come back to God. And that's what these two psukim are saying. But say Yisrael and Mitzrayim, when the Jews came out of Egypt, when they came away from the influence of Egypt and the culture of Egypt, then what happened to them? Then they became this holy nation who they really are. And that's what we call the Pintele Yid, that no matter how far a Jew strays from his self and from Torah and from mitzvahs and from values and morals and ethics and all those things, that's because they're being influenced by the outside world. But who are they? They are homing pigeons. They will, when they can, they will come back. They will come back to Hashem. The next two psukim explain what happened then. There they are standing by the sea, and what happens next? Hayam ra'a v'yanos, the sea saw and fled. Hayarden yisov la'achar, the Yarden turned its back and ran. Heharim rakdu ha'elim, the mountains danced like rams. Geva'os kivnei tzon, and the hills like little sheep. So immediately the commentaries ask, this is talking about the crossing of the Yam Sea, the Yam Suf, the sea splitting. What is it that the David HaMelech is speaking about? So very simply, very literally, the sea saw the Jewish people standing there. They saw Nachshon ben Aminadab jump into the sea, and the sea split for them. Another opinion, slightly deeper than that, is that Moshe picked up his stick. His stick had Hashem's holy name written on it, and when the sea saw the holy stick, the holy name of Hashem on the stick, it split. It ran and let the Jews come through. But one of the deepest explanations, which I saw in the Rashbam, and is the explanation I like the best for this, it says that the sea saw the coffin of Yosef, and when the Jews were carrying the coffin of Yosef with them to bury him in Eretz Yisrael, and when the sea saw the coffin of Yosef, it split. And the Rashbam says that the way of water is that it doesn't split. Okay, water, you can't just push the water aside and it will stand there. The instinct, the way that the water has been created is that it flows and it doesn't split, doesn't stand aside. And when it saw Yosef's coffin, it split. And the Rashbam asks why, and explains that Yosef merited great things because of the incident that happened to him with Mrs. Potiphar. So if you recall the story of Yosef and Mrs. Potiphar, Yosef is a slave in Potiphar's house. He's incredibly, incredibly handsome young man. And Mrs. Potiphar keeps on trying to convince him that he wants to be with her. And the Torah tells us how she nagged him day after day for an entire year. Eventually, at the end of the year, the Torah also tells us how everybody was out of the house, and Yosef went to the house, and he was extremely tempted to be with Mrs. Potiphar because he was a teenager, right? He was an 18, 19-year-old boy. Probably all his hormones were working nicely, and he was very flattered by Mrs. Potiphar. And the most normal, instinctive thing for him to do at that point was to agree to be with Mrs. Potiphar. And yet, even when she pulled him and tried to get him, he abandoned his coat and he went running out of the house, completely against instinct, completely against nature. And so the Rashbam tells us that when the sea saw Yosef's coffin there in front of the Jews, it said, just as Yosef went against his instinct and ran away from Mrs. Potiphar, so I, the sea, will go against my natural instinct, which is just to flow, and I will split and allow the Jews to go through. It's interesting, the Rashbam also continues and explains that when Hashem created the world, he created everything in the world with instinct, okay? In other words, the things in the world happen according to nature. The sun comes up, the sun goes down, water flows, waves come in, waves go out, the tide comes in. All things happen in the world according to, we could call it instinct. That's how it is. But when Hashem created the world, he said, instinct is for always. There are going to be times where you have to go against your instinct, where you have to know that just because this is what you always do, just because this is what's easy for you, this isn't the way that you can go right now. And he told that even to the sea. He said to the sea, you're being created, that your water that's covering the area, but there will be time in the future where you will have to split. And that's also part of creation. And so when the sea saw Yosef go against his nature, it remembered, if we could say that about the sea, that this is what Hashem had told it right at the beginning. It's not great to go according to nature if we can't stop when we also have to stop. And that's in all things in our lives. That's the message that David HaMelech is giving us over here, that doing what's instinctive and good is great. But we also have to know that there are times where we have to stop and go against what's our nature and do things that have to be done because that is the call of the moment. Moving on, we also learn from this pasuk, the famous medrash, that at the time that the sea split, all bodies of water everywhere else in the world split as well. So Hayam Ra'av Yanos, at that time where the sea decided to split, Hayarden Yisav La'achar, the Yarden also split. And from here, the Medrash tells us that all bodies of water everywhere split. So if you had a fish pond, it split. If you were having a bath, it split. Everywhere in the world, there was this miracle of water splitting happened so that everywhere in the world, everyone could see that something great was happening in the world on this day. It also tells us about the Yarden splitting because the Yarden split twice. The Yarden split once when the Jews went into Israel. The Yarden split in the time of Yehoshua. And before that, when Yaakov was running away from his brother and running to Lavan, over there the pasuk says, "Ki b'matli avartes hayarden hazeh." With my stick, I crossed this Yarden. And there the commentaries explain to us that Yaakov put his stick into the water of the Yarden, and it split so that he could go through and get safely to Lavan without his brother managing to catch him and kill him. So, so these are the pictures that we have in our mind of the time that of Kriyas Yamsuf and the Yarden as well splitting. At the same time that Kriyas Yamsuf happened, all of nature changed and showed the greatness of Hashem in the world. And that's why the pasuk continues and says, the mountains and the hills were so shocked by what was going on that they also danced, if we could imagine that, mountains dancing like rams, hills dancing like little lambs. And says then that they asked, okay, they must be the angels. Malacha hayam kisamus. What's with you, sea, that you are fleeing? Hayarden tisov la'achar. What's with you, Yarden, that you turning and splitting as well? Heharim tirkedu ha'elim. And why are the mountains dancing like rams? Gavaos kivnei tzon, and the hills dancing like little lambs. So everyone is wondering about this. Why is nature doing this? Why are all these miraculous things happening? And they answer a really important answer. They say, and that's pasuk Zayin, milifnei Adon. It's from before our master, Chuli Aretz, the master of the world, milifnei Elokai Yaakov, because from before the God of Yaakov. So there's one reason why we split, and that's because Hashem told us to. And that's probably one of the most important lessons that we have to have in our keeping of Hashem. We always look for good reasons and good understanding for the mitzvahs. And we always try to say, we do this mitzvah because of this, and we do that mitzvah because of that. There's one reason why we do mitzvahs, and that's because Hashem said so. That's the bottom line reason for keeping all mitzvahs. I often think that we do almost a disservice when we advertise mitzvahs. I remember that many years ago there was a Jewish radio program called the Jewish Sound, and one of the things that it did very cutely was advertise mitzvahs. And so one of the pictures that they painted in the advert was Shabbos. It was an advert for keeping Shabbos, and it was about a person on a little island and just enjoying the of the island, and said, you can have your island every week, keep Shabbos. And I thought about it a lot over the years. And one year I was teaching grade 9 class, and we were talking about keeping Shabbos. And I made this comment that we keep mitzvahs not because of what it does for us. That's a fringe benefit. We keep the mitzvah because Hashem said so. And I gave them the example of this advert of keeping Shabbos. And I said, lots of people love keeping Shabbos, and they enjoy Shabbos, and they enjoy the time without using their cell phone, and they enjoy the family time, and they enjoy the tranquility of Shabbos. And equally, there are probably lots of people who don't enjoy it at all. And they would really like to be doing other things. And I made the comment, I said, even if in your house it's not peaceful on Shabbos and you can't wait for Shabbos to finish, we keep Shabbos because we didn't originally keep Shabbos because of all that, the tranquility, but we keep Shabbos because Hashem said so. That's all. That's our bottom line reason for keeping it. And a girl came over to me after class and she said to me, I hate Friday nights. My parents don't get along. And the whole week we manage nicely as a family because everybody's busy doing their own thing and we pass each other in the passage. But Friday nights is terrible in our house. Everybody is just like concentrated family time, which I really don't enjoy. And I was going to give up keeping Shabbos because of it. But today you made an important point for me, and that is that we keep Shabbos because Hashem said so, not because of the important anything else, the family time, the whatever else it is. That's just fringe benefit. It was a big lesson to me, and that's why I point this out so strongly, that this is what the sea, the mountains, the hills all said. Why are you doing this? Why are you splitting? Why are you dancing? I'm doing it because Hashem said so. That's our bottom line reason for keeping all mitzvahs, for keeping all Torah, for doing what Hashem wants. Also, comments over here on the words Milifnei Elokai Yaakov. We're doing it because of the God of Yaakov. This is the only time in Tanakh that Hashem is referred to as God of Yaakov. He's referred to as God of Abraham. He's referred to as God of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. He's referred to as God of Yisrael. But this is the only place where he's called Elokai Yaakov, the God of Yaakov. At the time of Kriyas Yamsuf, there were two completely opposite extreme things happening in the world. There was unbelievable chesed, kindness, that Hashem was taking a nation and saving them from a nation that was chasing them. So to the Jewish people, Hashem was being full of chesed. To the Egyptians, Hashem was being full gvura, harshness. At that point, the Egyptians were being punished. There was no leeway for them. They were being drowned in the sea. And so in that moment, Hashem was being absolutely and completely gvura dik with the Egyptians. Normally, we can't think of putting those two emotions together. Either a person is full of 100% chesed or they're 100% gvura, but they can't be both. And Yaakov is the one who taught us that you can have both. Abraham was completely chesed, absolutely and complete chesed. And that's why we don't know anything about the people who Abraham influenced in the world. Abraham, it taught lots of people about Hashem, but we never hear about any of them because they didn't carry on following the ways of Hashem, because you cannot serve Hashem with only chesed, with only kindness. Yitzchak was completely gvura, 100% gvura. We don't hear about anybody who learned from Yitzchak, is a descendant of those people who were influenced by Yitzchak, because you cannot serve Hashem with only gvura, with only harshness. And Yaakov is the one who comes and he teaches us that you can take both of those midot. You can have times where you are full of chesed and at the same time have gvura as well. He was able to bring the two things together. And this was Kriyas Yamsuf. At Kriyas Yamsuf, Hashem was doing that. He was being chesed and gvura at exactly the same time. And therefore, at that moment, whose God was he? Elokai Yaakov, he was the God of Yaakov. The final pasuk in this kapitel, it says, he is the one who's able to turn a rock into a pond of water, and he's able to turn a stone into a fountain of water. And so the Medrash goes into lots and lots of explanations, saying what this pasuk is referring to, alluding to. Most of them saying that this is a continuation of what we've been saying up until now. This was Kriyas Yamsuf, but it is explaining further details to us of it. And so from this pasuk, we learn the extra details about the miracle of Kriyas Yamsuf, that when the Jews walked through, the sea changed completely, and there were stone walls in between, so that it was dry for the Yidden to get through, that they weren't afraid that this was some big tsunami that was going to come crashing down on them, and that from these stone walls, fountains of sweet water, not seawater, came pouring out so that they could drink. So we have that picture being painted by this pasuk over here. Also, we learn from this pasuk about the different times that Hashem changed rock into water for the Jewish people when they thought that they had nothing to drink, and the water came out of stone for them. And finally, the commentaries tell us that this is talking about the time of Mashiach, when the world will be covered with Torah, godliness, spirituality, as much as the water that covers the sea. And that brings us to the end of this parak of Hallel. And we'll look quickly, at least at the beginning of the next parak, Kuf Tes Vav, or 115. 115 is slightly different than the two that we've learned so far. So far we did how Hashem makes the Yidden great even when they are low, and then we looked at the next, which the one that we just did, which is speaking about this incredible miracle that Hashem did for Jews, and this promise that Hashem will make miracles for us always. And then comes this parak, 115, which is a completely turn almost. This is where we start saying, how come in generations before that people saw godliness? And we know that especially after the parak before, the story of Kriyas Yamsuf, there was so much godliness in the world that it says anybody, everybody, even small children could point and say, there's God, okay, I see him. And so here we're asking, why don't we see so much godliness? Because when there is godliness, there are miracles, and obviously we're asking Hashem, why aren't we seeing as many miracles? Why isn't it as easy to see miracles and to see blessing as at the time of Kriyas Yamsuf? We aren't worse than those people. So what is actually happening here? And we come to this conclusion that probably we don't deserve it. Okay, that the reason we're not seeing so much godliness is probably because we don't deserve it. And so we turn to a different tactic in asking Hashem to be good to us, to show us godliness, to show us miracles. And so we begin by saying, Leilanu Hashem, it's not for us, Hashem, Leilanu, not just for us, Kilo Shimcha Tein covered, but for your name, honor should be brought, Al Chastacha, because of your kindness, Al Amitecha, and for your truth. And I just want to read the next pasuk together with it. Lama Yemru Hagayim, why should the nation say, where is your God? So it's a bit of psychology going on here with Hashem. I don't know if you call it that. Reverse psychology, saying to Hashem, we're not asking you to be nice to us because we deserve it, but we're asking you to be nice to us for your sake, Hashem, so that people shouldn't say bad things about you. And many times in the Torah, and especially in our davening, we use this tactic where we turn to Hashem and we say, even if I don't deserve it, then for the sake of your name, Hashem, do it, because let people see how great you are, Hashem. Let people see that you are kind. Let people see that you are truthful. Do it for that reason. It's interesting that for those people who like numerical values, the word lanu, us, for our sake, if you add up the letters, a lamed is 30, and nun is 50, and a vav is 6, brings us to 86. It's the same numerical value as the word Elokim, which is the word for Hashem when he is harsh, right? When he is involved in gvura, when he is involved in judgment. The other name of Hashem, the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey, as we discussed quite a bit before, is the name of Hashem of Rahmanas, of kindness, right? It's absolute kindness. And so the commentaries point out that what are we saying here? We're saying Leilanu. Hashem, no, please, not judgment, not harshness. That's not what we want right now. Hashem, we want you to be kind, Leilanu, and not to be judging of us right now. And why? Not necessarily because we deserve that kindness, but Kila Shimcha Tein covered, that for your name should give kindness. Rav Yochanan says that this pasuk is talking about what we call Chevlei Mashiach, the pain of the time, the birth pangs of Mashiach. And he says that this is a pasuk that we should just repeat whenever we are afraid of judgment, whenever we are afraid of harshness, or if we're feeling harshness, then this is the pasuk we should say, Leilanu Hashem. please, Hashem, not Gvura now, but Hashem. We want kindness. We want your Rahmanus. We want your kindness now. The Medrash Tehillim says that this pasuk is what Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah shouted out at the time that they were being thrown into the furnace, and they shouted out, "Leilanu Hashem, Leilanu ki l'shimcha tein kavod," and Hashem saved them from the fires. The miracle story of Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So says David HaMelech over here. He says, why let the goyim have what to say about Hashem? We know about our God, Pasuk Gimel, V'Elokeinu b'shamayim. They think our God is in heaven, but we know Kol Asher Chafetz Asa, that anything Hashem wants to do, He can. Right? He can do anything and everything that He wants to do. And let's have a look at the next Daled, Hey, Vav, Zain, and Ches together, because it's one little story. We say, at Sobehem Kesef Zahav, the idols of the Goyim are silver and gold. Ma'aseh de Adam, they are things that man made. Pelahem v'lo yadaberu, they have mouths but they don't speak. Einaim lahem v'lo yiru, they have eyes but they don't see. Oznaim lahem v'lo yishma'u, they have ears but they don't hear. Aflahem v'lo yirichun, they have noses but they don't smell. Yedayim lo yemishun, their hands don't feel. Ragleim v'lo yahalechu, they have feet but they can't walk. Lo yehegu b'greinam, there's no sound in their voices. Kamayhem yiyu osehem, and those who made them are just like them. Kol asher b'teach b'hem, all those who trust in them. So at a very simple level, we're talking about Avodah Zarah, people who bow to or believe or think that whatever they get comes from the idols that they made. This is something that we obviously don't understand anymore. So now we are looking at this in a slightly deeper understanding of it. At Sobehem, the things that they make into idols are kesef zahav, are silver and gold. In other words, the world that we live in, people make silver and gold or physical things, make that into their gods. They chase it, they want it, they pursue it, and that is their gods. And at the end of the day, it does nothing for them. It can help us temporarily, it can make life good certain times, but it is not something that they can benefit from always. And in fact, the Alshich goes one step further, and he says it's a strange word being used for idols, atzobehem, and he says it has the same root, ayin, sadi, and beis, which is sadness. And he says their sadness is silver and gold. What is their sadness? He says that we put so much emphasis on the physical, on the silver and gold, and we do that to ourselves. We bring our own sadness through making our priorities incorrect. And if we realized in the end that all this which we've made so important in our lives, all these things really are nothing, have nothing, and that what will give us happiness, security, good feelings is what he will go on to say in the next pasuk, trust of Hashem, the belief in Hashem, and doing what Hashem wants, that will provide us with security, that will provide us with happiness, if we can do that, if we can develop this proper good relationship with Hashem. And I think that is where we'll go up to today, and next week, please God, we will continue from finishing off that point and going on to the next point of trust, of developing our trust in Hashem. So I wish you all a good week.
Thank you, Rivki.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Rivki.
Sorry I was late.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Rivki. I've just joined for the first time and I'm loving it. And it's just so good to see you and have a share from you. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rivki. It was wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.